Well, welcome to the Jacob Kersey Program. I am Jacob Kersey, and joining me today is the greatest of all Greek heroes, a half-god of superhuman strength and violent passions, the epitome of bravery, masculinity, and strength. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Universal's Hercules, who is played by the talented Kevin Sorbo, an actor, director, producer, and author. Kevin, it is an honor to have you back on the podcast.
Hey, good to be here. How's everything going for you?
You know, like I was telling you before the podcast, if I was doing any better, I would be scared.
There you go.
I'm blessed.
There you go.
But Kevin, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode,
Sure.
we have a lot of important things to talk about. But for those who maybe aren't as familiar with your work or need a refresher, and there are 100 of videos out there where they could go in depth into your career and your life and your story, but could you just briefly go back to the beginning of it all, before you became Hercules and before you produced, directed, and acted in the 60-plus films that are out there? Could you just share a little bit of your story with my audience?
How far back you want me to go?
As far back as you want to go. I know.
Well, I caught the actor's bug at the tender age of 11 years old. I grew up in Minnesota, small town just west of Minneapolis, and we had a field trip in fifth grade to the Guthrie Theater, very famous theater in Minneapolis. A lot of Broadway stars start there. A lot of Broadway shows start there before they moved to New York. And it was The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare, and I was just totally mesmerized for whatever reasons. It hit me, and didn't know what the hell they were saying because I was 11 and it was Shakespeare, but I was still totally enthralled with what was going on stage, and I kind of made the promise to myself that I'm gonna pursue an acting career. That's kind of how it started, and I really didn't get involved with it until I got into college, when I had a double major, marketing, advertising, but took a minor in drama, and I just got really involved in the Minneapolis commercial world because a lot of headquarters are based there, from Target to Dairy Queen, Best Buy, Pillsbury, General Mills. All these main companies are based in Minneapolis. So I did a lot of commercials during my college years, and that really got me that all-important Screen Actors Guild card before moving to Florida. I said moving to Florida because I left California 3.5 years ago. I live in Florida now, but anyway, moving to California to pursue my acting world. And, I was really lucky. I was one of the few guys I know out there, because I met certainly everybody's an actor out in California. I was one of the few guys that didn't have to wait tables or be a bartender or anything like that. I worked very well commercially, getting guest spots here and there in different shows. And before I got my big break on Hercules, which ultimately became the most watched TV show in the world for my 7 years filming in New Zealand, and then 5 years on Andromeda, and since then, as you mentioned, over 60 movies. Actually, I just finished in my 70th movie, so I'm staying busy. I got 4 movies coming out this year that I directed 2 of them last year, and I got two other things lined up right now to shoot this year. So knock on wood, I stay busy.
That's amazing. And, you're producing them so fast. I'm having a hard time keeping up with them all. I've been trying to catch up and watch as many Kevin Sorbo movies as I possibly can. I've made some progress since we talked last time, about this time last year. So I'm working on it, but you have 4 films coming up this year. I can't wait to see those. And you've done so many different films, different genres and things. You've done a lot of really good Christian faith-based films, and I know you've done some with an actor I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, John Ratzenberger, who, if you're familiar with Disney Pixar, he's the only actor to ever play in every Disney Pixar movie, and he's Mike the Angel in the movie What If, which is probably one of my favorite Kevin Sorbo movies out there. So it's just amazing, all the movies and things you've been able to work on. But Kevin, what I want to talk to you about today is how Christian conservative voices are facing being silenced. And the left is on a mission to silence and destroy Christian conservative voices out there. And, we were told by our Lord and our closest friend that we would experience this. He said in John 16:33, "I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have trouble and suffering, but take courage. I have conquered the world." And George Yancey, who wrote a book titled So Many Christians, So Few Lions, he documented that approximately 32% of Americans like Christian conservatives significantly less than other social groups. Now compare that to approximately the 31% of Americans that like Muslims significantly less than other social groups. And he also looked at academia by asking academics if they would be less willing to hire someone who is an evangelical, and almost 2 in 5 said that they would be less willing to hire an evangelical. He said this: the academics answering my survey explicitly stated they would discriminate against a job candidate who is a conservative Protestant. Now, I'm not here to complain and cry, woe is me, but what I am attempting to do is prove that, yes, outspoken Christians, individuals like yourself who stand for a biblical worldview, will face pressure and discrimination from the secular world. Now, I discourage Christians here in the United States from saying they are persecuted, because what we deal with isn't what most people think of when they think of persecution, but we will face anti-Christian discrimination, and we must be willing to accept that. Now, you, Kevin, you sacrificed your career in Hollywood because you decided to speak your mind and stand for a Christian worldview. But what Satan meant for evil, God is certainly using for the good of his kingdom. Kevin, could you tell my audience the type of anti-Christian discrimination that you faced over your career?
Well, for starters, you have to ask the question, why? Why are they so angry and so hateful towards something they don't believe in? So it's like, so is the problem working with conservative Christians because they work hard and they believe in truth and light and faith and redemption and hope and laughter? The answer is, yeah, they hate that. I find it interesting that the liberals out there, they yell that they're the ones who are for peace and for love, and yet they're the party of hate and anger. They're the ones that are tearing down the history of this country. They're the ones that are going after people that have a different point of view than they have, and their point of view is very, very evil. It's as simple as that. They are the party of murder. They love abortion. They love child sacrifice. I mean, we're getting to the point now where some states are looking at, well, when the baby's born, you can decide then, do you want to keep it? Do you not want to keep it? So it's absolutely satanic and scary and sad of what's going on in our world right now. And yeah, I faced it over about a dozen years ago. My manager and agent said, we can't work with you anymore. The studios don't want to work with you because you said something on a set to somebody. Yeah, I challenged somebody on the set, God forbid, because the left loves their labels. Oh, you're a Nazi. You're a homophobe. You're against everything. You're hateful. And I go, well, how is that person a Nazi? How is that person a transphobia? How is that person an anti-Semite? It's amazing to me that these people, it's really deflection. Everything they blame you for, they're already guilty for it. Antifa is a perfect example of that. We're against fascism. They are the fascists. They are the fascists. And so I laugh, and at the same time, it makes me very sad that you see the way the world's going. And so I had to kind of forge my own way to keep being involved in an industry that I love. I love acting. I love directing. I love the creative process of being on the sets. I love it. I love the post-production that goes into it. I found love this business, still in love with it. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. I wish I had answers for it, but the only thing I can really come down to is that it's just pure evil. And our country was founded by Judeo-Christians. It was founded, our laws are based on the Bible. I mean, everything. And now they want to get rid of that. We got rid of the Bible back in 1964. So you can see what's happened decade after decade. Now it's just really accelerated on itself. The amount of hate and anger out there towards people that have a completely different point of view. And I think the point of view of most Christians, I don't think we're perfect. Nobody's perfect. But, my atheist friends, well, you guys, you don't believe in God. You're a horrible person. No, I've got friends that are atheists, agnostics, that are very good people. They just I say, look, for you to believe in absolutely nothing, that's an amazing, amazing degree of faith. I don't have that point of view, but good for you. If I'm wrong, I've lost nothing. If I'm right, well, then see you later, because you and I know how all this is going to end. But it's incredible to me to see what's going on in the world right now, and you see it going on in movies and television and the mainstream media, and that's where it is. Politics runs downstream from culture. Who runs the culture? Hollywood does. And you see the movies they're putting out there, and Walt Disney said it back in the 50s. Hey, We will influence youth with television and movies, and that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm fighting it with the movies I do, like you mentioned, like What If and Soul Surfer and God's Not Dead and Let There Be Light. These are the movies I'm going to keep on doing because I like movies that have a positive message. We all hit roadblocks in life, but there's a way to get around those roadblocks. And it's weird that people don't want to work with people like me just because I don't walk around the set spouting Bible verses to people. I'm very professional on the set, and I'm there to do what I got to do. You look at Hollywood, look at them, look at the Academy Awards, look at the Golden Globes. The rate of people viewing it on television goes down every year because people are sick and tired of it. They're just sick and tired of these people just getting up there and spouting anger when they should get up there and thank God they have a career, because without fans, they have no career.
Yeah, Kevin, you made an interesting point there, how, if you're right about Christianity, then you have everything to gain. But if you're wrong, then, you really have nothing to lose. C.S. Lewis said something very similar to that, and I'm not quoting it verbatim, but he said, if Christianity is true, it's of no importance at all. But if it is true, it's the most important thing in the world. And you illustrated very well in the movie God's Not Dead. You played an atheist professor who absolutely hated Christianity.
Hold on. That's redundant. Just say college professor.
Yeah, because it seems to be the trend. Yeah, it seems to be the trend that if you're a college professor, then you hate Christianity, which is awful. But these are what young adults, college students are dealing with today. And so just imagine you're a young Christian, young in your faith, not that much experience. You go off to college and you deal with that type of hatred and contempt from a college professor who really is, you spend all that money, you spend all that time, all that hard work, and your career is threatened by someone who hates your faith. And so and then all your peers, there's just so much pressure to deny your faith, to be quiet about it, and to forsake it altogether. What is your encouragement to young adults who are in that situation, who perhaps maybe just want to either deny their faith or just perhaps be quiet about it, not speak about it, not ruin their chances at a career?
Well, that's what's happening in Hollywood. I work with a lot of actors who quietly come up to me and say, "Hey, man, thanks for being a voice for us." And I go, "Why don't you be a voice?" "Well, God, man, I got my careers going here. I don't want to lose it." And I get it. But we got to stop this ridiculousness. I'm not here to wake up the sheep. I'm here to wake up the lions. The sheep are going to be sheep, and they're just going to sit there and cower and let fear control their lives from the government. And look what they're doing now with COVID. It's all about fear over a disease that every age group is a 99.7% chance of recovery if you get it. 99.7. But let's shut down the world and let's use fear as a way to control people's lives. It's absolutely unbelievable and unforgivable. What guy like Fauci should be in jail, Gates should be in jail. These guys started this long ago. And I hate what they're doing, and people are going to stop letting fear control their lives. we're not supposed to be fearful, right? So it's what's happening right now, and it's what's fascinating is that you brought this up, and tonight I'm speaking at the University of Central Florida. So it's going to be, I don't know if I'm walking to a lion's den there or not, but I don't have any fear for that stuff. To me, they can't cancel me, even though Facebook already did, because Facebook hates the truth as well. Zuckerberg's a complete wussy to me, and these guys that have these little trolls that have no lives other than their hate and anger towards somebody like you and me for speaking the truth. I'm going to keep speaking the truth. This is the fear. This is the thing about the darkness. They hate the light. They hate it, and they want to stay hidden. That's why these trolls are down the basement of their mom's house, and they're probably 35 years old, and they're being paid by George Soros to attack people like you and me. It doesn't affect my lifestyle whatsoever. But the old adage of misery loves company. That's what these people are looking for, because they really hate who they are. And you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself, but these people don't love themselves. They look in the mirror every morning and they hate what they see, and they want to drag you and me right down with them. But I'm going to keep fighting the good fight and not let them, cancel me in a spiritual and in a physical way. They can cancel me on the stupid things like Facebook, but they're not going to cancel what I stand for and what I'm trying to keep, spreading the word about. And that's about doing movies with a positive light. And, don't be afraid. Don't let people set you limitations. That's the biggest thing. People are so afraid. And I think the biggest killer in America today is apathy. And people are just like, what can I do? And they just give up. And people just, they just throw the white flag up and say, okay, government, take care of me. And that's just, It's just sad. It's just sad. What we have at Washington, D.C. right now is just unbelievably pathetic.
So you're still, Zuckerberg still has you in Facebook jail from that issue
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
he'll never let me back out again. They took over 1 million followers away, but yeah, I mean, I was posting things like, "Hey, look what these 10,000 doctors in Europe are saying about mask wearing. They're saying it's a waste of time. You can't say that's hate speech. Well, that's hate speech. Well, it's misinformation. These are 10,000 doctors. I'm saying, look what they're saying. I mean, it's amazing that we can't have an opposing point of view. We just have to follow their rigid, stupid guidelines to make us just live in fear, like I said. Johns Hopkins University. I got to stick on COVID because it's still so, oh my gosh, another wave. I've had it twice, and it's like, each time was like, I had about a year and a half ago and I got it again. It's going to be around forever, and it's going to be like a bad thing for people that are unhealthy because the average age is still over 80 with pre-existing conditions. And Johns Hopkins University, a secular university, came out a month ago and said the number's been inflated by 90%. It's not 800 to 900,000 people are died. It's about 150,000, which is a lot because the flu kills on average about 50,000 people a year. But what's amazing is that only 500 people died of the flu last year. Isn't that amazing? COVID cured the flu. That was another thing that got me in trouble with Facebook. I'm going, holy cow. Number one, these guys have no sense of humor, but they love living in their negative, hateful world. So I'm going to keep fighting the good fight, and I'm going to keep posting things. I hope people follow me on Twitter. I do very sarcastic, funny things on Twitter. Like I'll say, if you want to get rid of COVID, tell the Clintons that COVID's got something on them. So COVID will mysteriously just commit suicide. But anyway, I want people not to be afraid to express their opinions because too many people I meet in my industry thank me for having a voice, but they're afraid to have their own voice, and that's sad to me as well.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, the darker that the world gets, the brighter our light can shine. And so just an encouragement to Christian conservatives is, yes, it is getting darker, but it's also true that as it gets darker, you're going to shine ever brighter as long as you keep up your light and don't put it out. Kevin, you made a statement during a talk you gave at a church, and this is what you said. You said 1 hour in church a week is not going to cut it. Not when secularism lurks in every direction we glance. And you mentioned the movies, TV shows, mainstream media, and the internet. And Walt Disney had this to say. He said that movies can and do have a tremendous influence in shaping young lives. So just kind of going back to all the different films and things you've directed, the faith-based films, what is your central desire for these projects?
You know what? I enjoy going to a Thor movie or an Avengers movie. They're fun. They're entertaining. It's like a roller coaster ride. But it's 50% of it is just watching a video game because it's all visual effects, right? So you walk out of the theater going, wow, that was fun. It was a good ride. But you don't walk out caring about really any of the people on there. There's no heart and soul to them. I fell in love with acting from all these movies I saw growing up as a kid and all the old movies that, reruns that my parents wanted me to watch from the 40s and 50s and 60s and stuff. And I love movies that have characters you can relate to. I call them actors movies. And that's the kind of movies that I've been doing the last 10 years. And these are movies that you can go, I know who that person is, or I'm like that person. And you walk out and you're talking about the movie from a perspective that's completely different than walking out of some roller coaster movie. You walk out being hopefully changed and being motivated and being inspired. Movies that more up-to-date movies that really I enjoy were like the Blind Side movie with Sandra Bullock, Green Book. With Viggo Mortensen. These are great movies. They're not like in-your-face Christian movies. I don't want to preach to the choir. I want to do movies that anybody can go to. And the message is in there, but it's, agnostics, atheists can go to and say, those are a really good movie. I mean, I've had people come on my sorbostudios.com and leave messages saying, you know what, I don't believe the way you believe, but I thought your movie was very good and it touched me. I go, you know what, that's a win. That's a win to me. So I'm going to keep doing movies that hopefully will touch people's hearts and not be filled with all this anger and divisiveness and hatred that Hollywood's doing, because that's what they're doing. The hypocrisy from these guys, it's so blatant that, every time there's a shooting of some kind, which is always sad, but I'm a pro gun guy. I have plenty in my house, trust me. And then these A-listers come out and go, we got to get rid of guns. And these are the same people that do these movies where they kill 150 people in the movie. So I just go, oh my God, then why don't you walk the walk? Why don't you sit there and get out there and go, I'm not going to make violent movies anymore. But they're just hypocrites. I mean, it's incredible to me. And once again, it's just right in your face and it's so obvious.
Yeah, and you made an interesting point there, Kevin. You talked about how your films are not always just preaching to the choir films, but they do still have the message in there. I do find that it is tempting a lot just to preach to the choir and cheerlead and so on and so forth for our team. How can we do a better job at reaching to people who perhaps don't see the world the way we do because maybe they didn't grow up in a faith-based home?
Well, once again, I'm hoping it's through some of my movies that I do, because here's the thing. Christians out there, I'm sure they have other friends that are non-believers. And to ask them to go to your church, they kind of go, not interested. There's church people there, right? But asking them to go to a movie is a whole different thing. So when these movies come out, support these movies. We don't have the budget that Hollywood does to put a trailer in every football and soap opera out there that you just get inundated with this trailer of whatever movie's coming up next over and over again. A typical action movie in Hollywood is $200 to $300 million a shoot, and they'll spend another $50 to $100 million promoting it. Well, the movies that most independent filmmakers do are under $5 million. Mine are in that $3 to $3.5 million range on average. Well, I don't have $100 million to promote it and get it out there. So the churches need to come together, because right now the churches aren't together. They're really not. And I've spoken in front of 450 pastors in Dallas last year, and I said, you know what, guys? You work for God. You don't work for government. And I know I got a mixed response out there, because so many pastors are not going the way they should be going as well. They're too afraid of losing their members. I love my pastor, Rob. I mean, I left California 3.5 years ago, but Pastor Rob McCoy is still my guy. He does a lot of work with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. And my favorite line of his, he says, I'm not afraid to work my congregation down to a manageable size. So don't be afraid to mix politics with religion, because that's where it all started, guys. There's politics in everything. I love when people go, I'm not political. Yeah, you are. Everybody's political. They just have different definitions of what they think politics really is. Don't be afraid to get out there and speak your mind. Don't be afraid to get out there and say, hey, let's talk about this, instead of you just getting the final say in everything, because this is what they're doing with the media, and this is what they're doing with government right now. They're just shutting us all down by not having a thing to say. We need to support these movies. Churches need to support these movies. These are good messages. Churches, I wish there should be an app that reaches every synagogue and church and mosque in the world and saying this movie is coming out, and those leaders of the church can look at the movie and get up in front of their flock and say, hey guys, this movie opens on such and such a date. Let's fill up those movie theaters those first 3 days, because that makes the difference. If you don't fill up those seats at the first 3 days, then it goes out. It's gone. And that happens to a lot of movies, not just faith-based movies. It happens to a lot of movies. I've seen plenty of movies with big-name stars that you're going, where was this movie made? You never even heard of it or saw it in theaters, because it died on the vine very quickly. Theater owners do not care what's in their theaters. They just want to fill seats and sell popcorn and sodas. So we need people in the church-going world to support movies that have that positive message. I get stopped all the time through hotels, airport lobbies by people saying, and it's not Hercules or Andromeda anymore. It's saying, we love your movies like God's Not Dead and Soul Surfer. Please make more movies like that. And I say, then you guys better support them. So that's all, the only way we can do it is word of mouth. That's what happened with God's Not Dead. God's Not Dead was an anomaly. A $2 million movie makes $140 million. Are you kidding me? That was all word of mouth. 70 times return on its investment. 70 times. Wow. Granted, Avengers makes $2 billion, but they need to make $800 million to break even. So yeah, they make a bigger dollar amount, $1.2 billion profit, but they had a 2.5 times return. We had a 70 times return in that little movie with no PR behind it, all word of mouth. And that's what we need with all these movies. Not only I do, but like what the Irwin brothers do as well, and Sony Affirmed with Rich Peluso and those guys. We need to support all these, and we need to jump on together as well, because it's weird. I think there's egos within the Christian film market as well, and it's sad to me. I mean, it's interesting that you got to fight that battle as well. Like I have no problem supporting other people's movies that I find to be good movies. I'll say, hey, I just went to this movie. Go check it out. It's a good family movie. But that doesn't happen enough even within the world that I'm working out of.
Wow. I mean, yeah, you make such a good point. We're going to have to support each other. And an important way to do this is to develop our Christian community and remember that we can't neglect working to influence larger society. Talented Christians like you, they need to work in the mainstream academia. They need to work in secular media. They need to work in the film industry. And as you mentioned, they need to work in politics. And let me say this, we're not working in politics just to assert power, but we labor to defend ourselves, spread the truth of the gospel, conservatism, and to be good stewards of what God has given us. Conserving God's design for this world and people. When you're given a good gift, you have a great responsibility. Kevin, you make such a good point saying that we have to go out there, work together. I think that's important. I know we're coming close to the end of our times here, but I just want to wrap it up by saying this. You're going to face, Christian, you're going to face discrimination. Thousands of Christians since Christ ascended have suffered or died for their faith at the hands of Roman authorities and in more recent years, terrorist groups. Christians in America may ask themselves, well, would I ever stand boldly for God in the face of a chopping block, in the face of a fire pit or gallows or the end of a barrel? Yet, I think the question we should be asking is, and I heard this Sunday by the preacher at my church, and I think this is so good, is how am I standing for God and His Word and His truth right here, right now in my current circumstances? Because as Americans, we might not face the type of persecution that Christians overseas face, but do you hide your faith from people who you fear will make fun of you or discriminate against you if you're vocal about your faith or act in accordance with your Christian values? Kevin, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts is really we got to keep fighting the good fight, people. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The sheep are the sheep. They're going to live in fear. We need to wake up the lions. We cannot be afraid to speak up and put yourselves out there. You will find a way to make a career. You might lose some friends, but the reality was they weren't your friends to begin with. I mentioned earlier, I've got atheist friends, agnostic friends. We go golfing together. We have a great time together. We laugh. We have different points of view on certain things, but that's okay. We can have different points of view. But I'm hoping that every time that I get together with my buddies that, they'll go watch my movies and they'll sit there and go, yeah, you know what? I thought it was pretty good. Good message in there. We need to let people know, because people think Christians, oh, you guys think you're so perfect. We are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And that's why I look at people that go out in the cancel culture. Who are these people that decide what I say is misinformation or hate speech? When I've got people on Twitter, these trolls that threaten my life and threaten my kids' lives, and Twitter leaves them on. It's weird. We live in the internet is a wild, wild west, and as wonderful of an creation it is, we also have to take it with a grain of salt with the things we read on these places. But don't be afraid. Step out. Don't be afraid. Be bold. And trust me, everything's going to work out better for your life if you bold. I think it's harder, I think, to hide from things in your life than it is to step forward and be honest.
Kevin, how can people connect with you and support your work?
The best place to go is sorbostudios.com. I do have kevinsorbo.net, but Sorbo Studios is a great place to go to get all kinds of information, and leave your information there. We got a lot of, DVDs, books. If you want anything signed, just check that out. But sorbostudios.com is a good place to go.
Awesome. And that'll all be in the show notes. Thank you, Kevin, so much for joining us on this episode. And thank you for listening. Make sure you share this with your friends, and make sure you check out Kevin Sorbo and his movies. It's great stuff. Great stuff. Check out the show notes. Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a great one.